Welcome to Perspectives in Mobile, the news podcast from the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. Join us discussing the world of telecommunications, technology, and mobile innovations. From Florence, Riccardo Amati.
Welcome to a new episode of Math Podcast series Perspectives, in which experts and industry leaders talk about what they think, see, and expect in the world of technology, telecommunications, and innovative mobile services. I am Riccardo Amati. In this episode, we dive into one of the most urgent and fast-moving areas of the mobile ecosystem: digital identity, data, and fraud, and particularly age verifications. Our guest is Tim Green, newly appointed Program Director for ID and Data at the Mobile Ecosystem Forum, MEF. So we are interviewing ourselves today. Hi, Tim. Thank you for joining.
It's a pleasure, Riccardo.
With over 20 years as a mobile industry journalist and analyst, Tim brings insight to a role that sits at the heart of sector that is under pressure, from age verification, from rising fraud, to fragmented identity systems. We will talk about digital identity, new wallet technology, and cross-sector collaboration. But first thing, age verification. News, to today's news, just in, really. UK online safety law leads to 5 million extra age checks a day for pornography sites, Ofcom says. What's your take on that? It's a huge number.
It is a huge number, yeah. It's been an interesting week because for people in NEF and people in the wider digital identity space, this is an area that we've obviously been focused on for the last few years. And suddenly to see all of these technologies and topics in the mainstream press, on the BBC and the Evening Standard, it's been quite interesting. Discussion of age verification technology, spatial profiling, mobile billing, age verification, which obviously is something which is very close to our hearts here at MEF.
What prompted the government to act?
Well, this goes back a few years. Actually, we have a Labour government here now, a left-of-centre government, but we used to have a Conservative government. And it was actually the Conservatives that brought this law in. And it was the Online Safety Act, and it was passed in 2023. And from a personal point of view, I think it's a terrible law. I'm a bit of a libertarian, so while I think any sensible person would approve of efforts to restrict children's access to porn, this law has got so many flaws in it, and we're already seeing some of the negative consequences of it. But we can get into that later. But anyway, that was the law was brought in to try and control children's access to harmful and illegal content. So it was introduced in 2023, but it's only now being applied. And the first big application of it was what has been known as AV Day, Age Verification Day, which was last weekend in the UK. And that was the day on which all adult services had to enact some kind of age verification on their services, which otherwise they couldn't touch, or they would be hit by fines.
Tim, what was the reaction of providers of adult services?
Well, interestingly, the big providers, AYLO, they are the owner of Pornhub and a bunch of other services. They actually agreed to comply with the law, having not done so in other territories. So a handful of states in the US have introduced this age verification compulsion, and their reaction was to close their sites down. A similar thing happened in France, where the sites closed for 3 weeks. Then there was a judicial review, and they changed their mind. But they were actually on board with this. One of the reasons is that we can get into this later, but they feel very strongly about the kind of age verification. They approve of age verification, but they feel strongly about the kind of techniques applied. And the Ofcom have recommended, several different alternatives, and I think that's brought the adult services companies into line.
Yeah, I mean, one country a country that is, first probably in this age verification days is Australia. They are really doing it seriously, and they already said YouTube is not going to be allowed to under 16. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, this comes back to what I was saying earlier about the law not being great. One of the consequences is that people who are providing services which they feel may be adult orientated, they now have an obligation to, they can decide we'll either take the risk or we'll put in place some age verification, which obviously has costs and also time and bureaucratic, implications. And so we've already seen this week that a number of Reddit sites that are, about cycling and things like that have closed down because they just feel like, if there's anyone says anything or brings up a topic on those sites which could be regarded as harmful or adult orientated, it's not worth the risk. So this is one of the problems with the law.
In Australia, they tried various methods of age verification. What were the ones recommended by the regulator in the UK?
So if you go to the Ofcom website, then they actually list, I think it's 7. And I'll just run through them. So one is facial age estimation. So you show your face to the screen, and your image is captured by some kind of technology, which in theory doesn't retain your photograph. It just looks at your photograph for signs of aging. So my God, the wrinkles would get me through that. And then there's open banking. So the website you can give the website your banking details, and then the service will check with your bank account to check whether you're over 18. You can download a digital wallet like Yoti, one of these many fast growing ID wallets where you supply, you download the wallet, you sort of put your passport and driver license details in there, and then that sits on your phone. You can verify your age through that. Credit card age checks, again, give your credit card details and the processor will check that you're over 18. Email based age verification, which is interesting because it's what they do is they get your email and then they look through your email messages for indications that you're over 18, like a utility bill or something like that. Obviously, mobile network operator age checks, which we all know about, where you give your phone number and the operator can check the age filters applied to it and other things like that. And then finally, photo ID matching, where you can show a passport and it will match it with your face, and if they match, get through. So there's a lot of different methods of verifying. Obviously, the problem is that people just don't really want to submit their details to adult services sites because they're concerned about extortion and blackmail. And so even if the technology is robust enough to not store any of that information, it just like this sort of in real time, average members of the public just leave that. They're concerned about it. That said, as you said at the beginning, 5 million age checks a day. So there are enough people out there who are happy to go through this.
So you're saying the technologies are all good. They can bring to success, but the way people think is always the same, and they don't want to exhibit their particular obsessions, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is that the big adult sites are big. What they want is, and I think what most people want is device-based age verification, which obviously the digital wallet sites or that
Sure.
So if you have some kind of age check that's built into your browser, or you have a wallet on your phone which is proof of age, which has some kind of encrypted token, which is a proof of your age. Then the adult site can just basically ping your device and say, "Is this person over 18?" And the information never goes. It lives on your device, and it never goes anywhere. That's what they're all working. That's what they all want, and I think that's what the industry wants. That seems like the best solution. And obviously, a lot of companies within NEF are working on exactly these kinds of ideas.
How is it going to end? What might happen?
Well, I mean, we've already seen some of the workarounds, and so VPNs. I think there was a stat that said that re-downloads have gone up like 1,400% over the weekend, and they were all, the app store charts were dominated by VPNs. Obviously, I'm sure most listeners will know, but VPNs, allow you to discard your location, so the adult site thinks you're in another location where these restrictions that apply. And obviously, there's obviously Tor as well, and these kind of dark web browsers you can use. I'm sure people are doing that. And one of the, we're too early, we're only 5 days in to make any long-term judgments. But one of the things that the big porn sites were saying was that the problem with it is that less ethical sites will just not bother with this, and so people will go to sites which are disobeying the law, which might have more unpleasant content in them. And I'm not sure how much I believe that argument, but there's probably something in it. So I don't know how many sites are evading the law at the moment, but I imagine it's probably quite a lot, because probably the nature of the industry is that you can just close something down and reopen it again, and they're all operating in sort of other parts of the world where it's harder to prosecute.
I don't know if it's part of what you just said, but once we were talking and you described the digital identity space as broken, in a crisis. Can you explain what you meant? And is this contributing to the surge of fraud or frustrating customer experiences? How much is a problem in the mobile ecosystem?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just going back to very basic stuff here. We live in a world of increasingly online, and we need a identity layer for the internet and for digital interactions, which doesn't really exist. So we live in this halfway world where we upload our passports and we scan utility bills and we, set up different passwords on different sites which we can't remember. It's all very familiar to the NEF community, this stuff, which is why so much great work is going on within NEF and other trade organizations to address this topic and to build solutions. And we have some great companies in Meta are doing that. But, it takes time, this stuff. There's standards to be agreed, technologies to be tested. But, we're working towards the big punch time will be next year when the EU launches its wallet, and everybody in the EU will be entitled to, well, they won't be compelled to, but they'll be offered one. And if that works well, then we might see.
Yeah, digital wallets are increasingly being seen as the next frontier for personal data and identity. How do you see their role evolving?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's if we can get this technology right, if we can have digital wallets in our possession which have encrypted tokens, anonymized tokens inside them, which mean that we can now their identities when we need to, as much as we need to. So it might just be, are you over 18? It might be, are you a UK citizen? Or it might be, are you a graduate? These kinds of proofs of our ID will be easy to it'll be easy to prove those with third parties that are, virtual and digital and we can't see. This is the problem, isn't it? That we used to live in a world where proving our identity, we were mostly doing it face to face, and if we had a passport, it was pretty much okay 99% of the time. And then you start transacting with people you can't see or hear, and all of a sudden, it's just too easy to abuse those situations, pretend to be someone else to steal people's identities. So we're working towards an alternative world where we can prove our identity in a robust way, but also with maximum anonymity when it's needed.
About MEF's mission and vision, how is MEF working to address these challenges of identity, data, and fraud the mobile system?
Well, we do have in the program that I'm running, we have a range of companies. Some of them are like biometrics companies. Some are digital wallet. I think probably where a lot of the effort is going in at the moment is the area of silent authentication, which is basically we have in the mobile space. As I indicated earlier when I was reading out the offer, age checks. We have an opportunity in the mobile space to be one of those, let's see, issuers. And that means that obviously mobile telecoms operators have a lot of information about us, and that information can be accessed through APIs. So a year or two ago, the GSMA launched a new scheme with, I think, 17 operators involved and more joining, where they would collectively offer their APIs to third parties for proving someone's identity. And it's a big focus for a lot of MEF members. And it's obviously an interesting area because a lot of MEF messaging members have made a lot of money from one-type passwords in the last 10 years. And this is a technology that could replace that. So there is a commercial dilemma among those companies. How much do they embrace the future and how much do they keep monetizing the existing ways of doing things? But I would say that's a big focus for the MEF.
Is MEF fostering cross-sector collaboration even in that among its members?
The biggest messaging company is Bedford Century, and the others. They're all looking at this. So, on our program, for example, we have Victoria from Interbit, who's a board member who's most closely involved with our.
Tim, do you have some a list of priorities for the next 12 months under your leadership in the ID and data program?
Well, I come to the conclusion that I don't want to get too into the weeds of my program, but I'm only 6 weeks into this job, and
I know,
and it's
very fresh.
yeah,
That's probably working on that, but
it's very so it's all a bit new to me, and obviously there's a tremendous value in the program in terms of getting information out and just members networking with each other. But I feel there needs to be some kind of initiative or scheme that everyone can get behind. I'm trying to work out what that is, and we've been having some conversations about, I think, some kind of code of practice for.
Another unavoidable question. Sorry about that. What would success in your new role look like, say, in 1 year?
Well, more members.
Of course.
Of course. I'm sure the board will be looking for that. Yeah, I mean, the same as it would be for any other program, really. Just putting that at the center of the conversation, bringing more members in from different areas, and making sure that members have access to all the latest research, interesting new ideas, but the ability to network with each other. It's all trade associations. I'm hoping that shortly I'll
Sure. Still looking ahead, and finally, if you had to sum up the biggest opportunity and the biggest risk facing the digital ID and wallet space today, what would they be? First, the biggest opportunity.
Well, the opportunity would be to just transform the way people interact with each other digitally. But it's hard to put into words what a difference that would make. I mean, we don't imagine a world where we could just authenticate ourselves to any time we needed to with a sort of press of a button and be aware that wouldn't necessarily involve the third party capturing any data about us. A reliable system where they can trust that I am who I say I am without having to keep any information. From the consumer's point of view, it's a great user experience, and from the third party's point of view, they don't have to store any information anymore. They don't have the compliance obligations that they used to have with all the data they had to store and the photos and the uploaded passport images and all those things. So it's a bit a chance to sort of reshape our digital lives. That's pretty big. I suppose the dangers are that.
First of all, I must say you put it in words very, very well. That was a very compelling. And that's exactly what it should be, if ever. But there are risks. We were saying so about this second, about the cons, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like any other big technological revolution. A lot of different parties have to come together to make it. Standards have to be agreed. Processes have to be agreed. Business models have to be agreed. If we're going to have digital wallets that allow you, speed up the ability of you to authenticate yourself, and how do the companies in the value chain from the mobile industry perspective? Having spoken to a few of my members, I know that there's some concern that in the past these API launches, there have been several of them by the telecom, the MNOs, and most of them have failed because these companies are quite slow moving and very competition with each other. So it's quite difficult for them to agree simple API initiative behind that. And there is a concern that if they don't really get behind this one, then they'll lose the one-time password business that they had for the last 10 years because of SIM swap, because of companies like, providing an alternative, but they won't replace it with anything. If they let the API opportunity, then that will go split. So that's probably one of the big dangers.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Green, Math Director of Program ID and Data. First, I didn't congratulate you for your new job. So congratulations, Tim. And thank you for sharing your insights.
Thanks very much. It's been a lot of fun. Cheers, Riccardo.
That's all for this episode of Perspectives, the math podcast where experts and industry leaders talk about what they think, see, and expect in the world of technology, telecommunications, and innovative mobile services. Stay tuned. From Riccardo Amati, goodbye and good luck with your work.
Thanks for listening to Perspectives in Mobile. Join us next as we explore telecoms, technology, and mobile innovations. Stay tuned, stay connected, and let's unlock the mobile potential together.